Fears in the rear view, right now on the mission. Trying to stay the course on this road to redemption. Giving up seems tempting, but no need. Cause I got you and you got me. A little UNITY will get us by. Through the storm and the rain, I'll be by your side. Look alive, the best has yet to come. Just some words of wisdom, plenty more. I know you've been looking for a breakthrough. Trying our best to make do. Every day is something new, but change gon' come, oh yes, it's true.
Welcome to Redeemed and Restored podcast, episode number 2. I can't even believe, just like the last time, that I'm even saying that, because that means that we already recorded 1. And so now we are recording number 2. That's so incredible. I'm so stoked. I'm excited to pick up where I left off on my story, because I stopped right at about the age of 26, and I told you guys a story about how I had a lot of good things going at work, but my marriage was in a rough spot, and I was starting to build up some bitterness and unforgiveness, and I got to a point where I just realized that no amount of money that I could make or no amount of success could fill up this God-size void inside of me. And so I remember, I'll just kind of pick up right where I left off. The plan is to get to hopefully the end of the story and then start talking about some things that I learned. I know during the last part of it, I kind of incorporated some of that and opened up with why I feel like I wanted to start the podcast, why God put it on my heart. And just kind of explain that. So that took a little bit of the first part of my testimony. I want to keep the episodes around an hour. And so I stopped that one right at a good spot, and I'm going to pick up where I left off. If for some reason I don't get all the way to the end, then who knows? This may turn into episode 3. But the plan right now is to finish this up and then start interviewing people. And I'm excited for my first couple of guests. And I think you guys are going to be pretty inspired, and you're going to get a lot of hope from their stories. And so it's going to be exciting. So I'm going to pick up right where I left off. And I was 26, and I was in a pretty toxic marriage at that time. We were fighting pretty steadily. It was getting to the point where I was getting a little out of control. We couldn't really get through a week without more days being bad than good. But back to that moment in my garage when I sat there and looked at all this stuff that didn't mean anything to me. Didn't even care that it was there. My marriage was really not doing well. Great that the job was, and we had all this stuff, but really I thought that some form of success, I don't know what dollar amount it is, but I thought owning a home and all that would finally make me happy, because deep down on the inside, I wasn't happy. I was always anxious, filled with depression, using alcohol on a steady basis, not to a crazy amount yet, but on a pretty steady basis. And now I was starting to couple it with Vicodin, and that was kind of the beginning of finding opiates, and that was a long journey after that. But anyways, I started watching preachers on TV. So I was trying to figure out where to go to church, kind of how to fire that back up. I mean, my parents were still around at this time. My dad was retired, but was preaching at a really small church in Bothell, and I didn't feel like that was the right option. Plus, with where we lived, that was a pretty far distance from where we were at, and it just didn't seem like the right choice. So I watched preachers on TV, and I ran into one, and I loved it. I loved his message. Showed it to my ex-wife. She seemed to be all right with it, and we packed up the kids one day, and we headed down to their main large campus in Tacoma, and we walked in, and we felt super welcomed. I wasn't doing the greatest. I was a little hungover that Sunday. I was about 3 Vicodins deep when the service started, and we sat way in the back. They have kind of a second level, so we were up in the second level, several rows back. But we really enjoyed it, and the kids had a great time. And so I was like, all right, we're going to keep doing this. And at that point, we never really stopped going. Their main campus was pretty far away from us, 45 minutes, but they had another one that was about 20 minutes away. So we attended their larger one for a while and then switched it up to one closer. But for the most part, we enjoyed the church, and I enjoyed it so much and started to get to the point where I kind of wanted to grow in my relationship with God. And I wanted to learn more about his word. And I do that. I have a tendency to jump all in for things when I start doing them. And this was one of them where we've been going to church for just a little while, and they advertised for their leadership college, and an associate's degree in ministry leadership is what I think it was for. There were some Bible classes and then some other classes that taught you about church leadership. And I decided, before I'd really thought about it too much, to go. And that's what I did. I went every Monday night. Um, and I was still working full time at this point. I was a director of sales at Wyndham, and that was going extremely well. So now I'm doing that, and I'm a full time, not full time, go 1 day a week, but the course load with homework and stuff was a full time load on top of living a normal life and raising kids and all that comes along with that. So that went decently well. For a while, I got through my first year, no problem. We were serving at the church all the time. The second and third year of the program, you intern and you go to school. So on top of working and going to class, interning, and so you were expected to be at different events and all that. But that's what I signed up for, and I didn't know where it was going to take me. I just felt like God was calling me into ministry, and I felt that call for a really long time. And obviously, from what you've heard so far, I really didn't do anything to actually go after it. So this is the first time I was doing that. The only problem in this scenario is I wasn't being honest about where I was really at. I still drank. I smoked cigarettes. And one of the funny things is I'd put like latex gloves on my hands on my way down to class on Monday nights, because we would get there and, the director of the college would be there, other teachers, and I didn't want to smell like smoke. So I had cologne in the car, gum, the whole nine. But when you get it on your hands, it really stinks. So I would I'd wear a latex glove and try not to smell like smoke. So that was kind of what I did. I didn't tell people the truth of where I was at. I painted a picture or gave people just a little snapshot of what I wanted them to see. And what I wanted them to see is everything was great. Family life was great. Married life was great. Kids are great. Everything's great. But really, it wasn't. And so there was a lot of, during that time, like I felt like I was trying. I felt like I really wanted to follow Jesus at that time. But with the willful sin that I was hiding, the intentional sin, again, the idolatry that I was hiding, it's really difficult to grow and learn and grow closer to Jesus when you really don't commune with him. You don't spend any time with him. I mean, I read the Bible some and I was going to my classes, but I still was wrapped up in everything else that I was doing. And so it wasn't authentic. I wasn't open, honest, and I wasn't ready to really do it. I told him I acted like I was, and um, I got to the point where I'm interning in youth. I preached for their junior high pastor once at their larger campus. I did it a few times at our smaller campus too, because when the pastors couldn't make it, I had a couple messages kind of ready to go about making the right choices, which is kind of ironic because I was making all the wrong ones. And the further along I got, the more of a fraud I felt like, because there I am. I will admit that the drinking lessened, and the amount of pain medication lessened, and I tried to not smoke as much, but I was still hiding it. It's hiding that, hiding the fact that my wife and I were fighting pretty regularly, and tried to make it seem like everything was fine, and we were just this great couple that were volunteering. But she really, I don't know, I can't speak for another person, but I don't think she was into it as I was, and we had a family and all that, and there I am. you know, spending a ton of time between class and interning at this deal. So it just it finally came to a head at the church. We eventually left the church, and the reason why, according to me, was 2008. Happened, and I was in an industry where um, it wasn't the best. It was hit pretty hard when you have unsecured signature loans with no collateral. At that time, nobody was willing to lend people money to purchase a timeshare, so it became really tough, and I ended up making a switch. But the reason why we said we were leaving is the plan is I was going to take a job with the same company in Australia, and that didn't quite work out. And when it didn't work out, we ended up still staying in the area, but we just never went back to the church. And here's the main reason why. So as it progressed and I continued on in school and interning and volunteering and all that stuff, I remember I went to their men's conference. It was every year in October. And I know that because it always fell on my ex-wife's birthday, and it would upset her that I was going to go to it. Um, so this year was around October 2nd, I can tell you that. So I had to be there for an interning responsibility where I had a set thing in the lobby that I was supposed to be in charge of. And so I was expected to be there by a certain time, and then also to attend the conference and all that. But me and my ex, we got loaded the night before. We went to the casino. I drank so much, and I woke up hung over. I'm talking smelling like the olive at the bottom of a martini hungover. And I did not want to go, but I had to. So I got up. I didn't have to, but I felt like I needed to. I got up and went all the way down there, and then hopped on a little spot, took care of my little booth thing, and then into the service. Pastor's never done this before, but he decides to bring people up on stage from different campuses that he thinks are just great guys that people need to meet. So there I am, just not feeling good. And he calls my name, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I stood up there and introduced myself to people, and people were coming up and talking to me. And, I faked it the best I could. I was worried that I smelled like alcohol still. Probably shouldn't even have driven there because we were out pretty late. So I just felt like a fraud at the end of that. And I felt like I shouldn't have been there, and then he shouldn't have called me up on stage. So when he called me up there and I had to go up, at that point, that was when I decided to leave the church. I was feeling like it was getting too hot, too close for comfort. I'm drinking a whole bunch on a Friday night, showing up hungover as an intern for a ministry leadership college to, I was supposed to minister to people and spend time with them out in the lobby at like a video game thing, but hang out with, at the time I was 28, hang out with young adults and maybe some high school kids, and while they played video games and, see where they were at and minister to them. And I'm sitting there smelling like, uh, you know, vodka or whatever I smelled like that next morning. And it was bad. So we kept going for a little bit, used the possible move of the job as an out. And then when that didn't work out, we just never went back. Um, yeah. So that was that experience. I loved it because the kids went to church. They loved it. My daughter got baptized there. And I wish we wouldn't have stopped going. I wish I could have been honest and told people the truth. There was people around me that I could have told the truth, but I felt like if I did that, then all the stuff, the school and the interning and all that would go away. And honestly, I didn't want to be honest yet about where I was at. That would take some vulnerability, and I was trying to paint a picture that I was, doing great, and I was so prideful. But that's why we left. At least that's why I left. So moving on from that, my addiction just started to spiral out of control at that point. I started using opiates a lot more frequently. At that time, you can go to a bunch of doctors and go to different pharmacies and get them. But I ended up moving on from Wyndham and moving over to a life insurance brokerage after the economy tanked out in '08. I started there in sales just like I did at Wyndham, moved on to be a manager, and then ended up as the director of sales of that entire department. We did really well again. It was at about 2 million a month when I got there. By the time I took over, we'd gotten it up to about 3 million a month. Um, but I was drinking so much at night. And then on top of the pills that I was getting from doctors, I had somebody who worked for me, and this is horrible. She would sell me or give me just a ton of Vicodin because her mom was sick and she was prescribed so many she didn't even need them all. So it was a way for her to make extra money. So there I am, a director of sales, buying opiates from somebody who worked for me that was one of my salespeople. So she reported to a manager that worked for me. So it was bad. She was awesome. She was a great salesperson, a really cool person on top of it. But man, the combo of how many pills I got from her and all I was getting from doctors, my addiction to opiates got insane. I remember one time I had to pick up our vice president from the Chicago office, and he was staying at a hotel. He had uh, flown in and rode a cab or something to the airport, or from the airport to his hotel. So he said, "Hey, can you just pick me up on the way in? It's right down the street." I said, "Sure." And I had drank so much the night before and taken so many pills on an empty stomach. I pick him up, man, and I just start spinning. And I literally had to pull the car over, and I got sick to my stomach right on the side of the road. And the drive from the hotel to our office was like 2 minutes tops. I mean, it wasn't that far at all. It was literally right on the way. So I told him, I don't know, I made up some story. Um, I was drinking all night, waking up so hungover and having to do sales meetings at 7 in the morning with like all these salespeople. And they did it kind of like a club with beach balls and music. Sometimes I just would feel so bad. I'm like, I don't even know if I can do this, but I could pawn it off on other people sometimes. And, I made it through that, but it got to the point there that my addiction got so bad, I was missing work. And just like I had learned to do at previous jobs when my struggles got bad with alcohol or pills, I would file for family medical leave intermittently. So if I missed too much time, they couldn't fire me. And that's exactly what I did here. But I told them it was for my back. And so, I mean, you can tell that you're starting to get on their nerves. The department's successful, but you're the person in charge. And there you are. You're you're never really showing up all the time. If I was in rough shape, man, still drunk or just, really sick or whatever to my stomach, I would call in and tell them it was my back, and they couldn't fire me. So that went on for a little while, but I could tell they wanted me gone. So I lined up a job now that the economy had gotten better. It's like 2011, back at my old place of employment, and they literally paid me about $30,000 to quit my job. And so I got a chunk of change, took a little vacation, and then went back to Wyndham. And I'm back there. I had a great first year at President's Club again. At this point, I'm still drinking and popping pills pretty regularly. Still buying them from the same person. Just she doesn't work for me now. I don't know if that makes it any better or not, but it got so bad. And I'm not going to talk about what other people that I was in relationships with did during those times. But uh, when two people are not in their right mind on a regular basis and they're already toxic and fighting, it doesn't make it better, and just continued to get worse. But then work's going really well. President's Club, another trip to Mexico. This time it was Playa del Carmen. Then I took a promotion. I was working from home at that time, but I took a promotion to go back in the office because it was a new line that they wanted to sell over the phone, and I got to start a department basically from scratch. So that goes really well. And then they partner with Jimmy Buffett, and Margaritaville by Wyndham starts. And through a series of events, I ended up being offered a job to take over the Orlando office in Florida. So um, now we're about to move from Seattle all the way to Orlando, which is about as far as you can humanly possibly, like it's like over 3,000 miles, way up here to way down here. I don't even know if you can see the other finger, but whatever, doesn't matter. You know how far it is. You've got a map. They're on everybody's phone now, so I'm sure you could figure it out. But um, we were all stoked to get out of the horrible weather because it's gorgeous down there. You got Disney World and Universal and the beaches and all that. So we were excited for that, but it was another thing for me where, when I would drink too much and pop too many pills or I was doing it on a pretty regular basis. So it just seemed like a good fresh start for me. The only problem is when you move, even when you move all the way across the country, when you actually go on that trip, all your problems still go with you because you go on the trip. And that's what happened in this scenario. I thought maybe a fresh start, a promotion, and a sales office. Getting it from where they were really struggling. They were only doing a couple $100,000 a month, and cranking it up to over $1 million would be like invigorating. It would be a boost, to my career. Just a fresh start. That's kind of what it was in the beginning, but when the move was first accepted, my kids were still playing sports, and my son was on a championship run with his Pop Warner Pee Wee football team, and my daughter was playing soccer. My youngest son Bryce was playing flag football, and they'd already started the school year, and I didn't want to uproot them right away, so we decided to wait until the week of Thanksgiving with all the breaks and stuff. And the plan was to head down and go to Disney World for Connor's birthday, and that's what we did. But the 2 months before that, I had already started the position, and I was flying back and forth from Seattle to Orlando on red eyes. I'd coach Bryce's flag football, hop on a plane, catch a red eye, and it usually wouldn't. No, not usually. It never would be a direct flight. It was always connecting, like down to Phoenix, over to Orlando. One time I flew to Miami, back up to Orlando, New York, whatever. And then Friday night I would fly home on the same Alaska flight, and do that every single week. So I take a red eye, work Monday through Friday, hop on a plane, um, get back at like 10 o'clock at night, which was like 1 in the morning in my brain. And I would be so tired, but we'd have to get up the next morning, kids sports all Saturday, Sunday, flag football, boom, right back on a plane. And I told my ex at the time I wasn't really drinking, but that wasn't true. I was drinking every single night. I'd go down to the bar at the hotel, or drink in my room, or go out, or whatever. I also got Xanax prescribed from a doctor, which was the start of just the hell that comes with benzodiazepines. I'll get more into that a little bit later. But I did that so I could sleep on those red eyes, and that was not good. Mix that with alcohol and some Vicodin, man, and yeah, you're in rough shape. So that's what I was doing. I would I would get pretty loaded on Sunday night on my way there, sleep that off, hop in a car, go drop my stuff off at a hotel, and then go to work. And then Friday, the Mexican restaurant at the Orlando airport started to know my drink order, and they'd give me one to go. And by the time I'd get off the plane, I was pretty loaded, but I had cars that were taking me to and from the airport, so I didn't have to worry about that. Um, but I'd get up Saturday morning just in rough shape. So that was the back and forth. It wasn't good for my marriage. We were fighting a lot. I'm already traveling a bunch, and then I'm tired and I feel horrible when I get home, and I really just wanted to go to sleep. But it would never quite work out that way. So um it just it was bad. And we left for Orlando in really bad shape. Our marriage was in bad shape. Things weren't good. And moving to Florida, even though Disney World's supposed to be the happiest place on earth, that that doesn't help. Maybe it did for a minute, but it just got way worse after that. So we move all the way down there. Things go well at work. It typically seemed to be the case, like work was always doing pretty well for the most part, and everything personally was just a struggle. Again, two broken people trying to be in a relationship, and it was just bad. It was toxic, and the longer we were together, the worse it got. I would drink and pop a bunch of pills to try and medicate, fall asleep early, whatever, just check out. And that's never good. So work's going well. We've been down in Florida for a little while. I have a run-in with the police involving alcohol and pills and all that, and I spend a night in jail. Well, the problem is I didn't have anybody's number at work. I didn't know it off the top of my head. I didn't have access to my cell phone. So, I couldn't call in. The next day I got released on my own recognizance, but I didn't call anybody, so I no call, no showed. And just a week prior, the vice president who kind of talked to me about moving had asked me if I had a problem with alcohol because obviously it was starting to show. And I said, no, no, of course I said no. Because if I said yes, then I would have to do something about it. And that's not what I wanted. All I wanted to do was just drink and pop more pills. Um, and I didn't really feel like I had a drinking problem because I really only drank to make the pills stronger. So, but yeah, it was a problem. And so he just asked me that. Now I spent a night in jail. So he obviously knows that something's not okay. I have to tell him what happened. And then begins the first of me faking getting help to placate whoever I needed to make things better. And that's what I did. I went to a counselor, got a couple things signed, went to meetings and groups and stuff 2 nights a week. It was the first introduction to Celebrate Recovery. The one that I went to, like only one person would ever show up, and maybe two or three. One time it was just me and this other guy, and they'd still do the whole thing with music and all that, and it was pretty entertaining. But it was the first time I'd ever went, but I was really just going to show that I'd gone to something, get somebody to sign something, so that I wouldn't lose my job, and I didn't. Um, but at that time, I stopped drinking, and I thought I was sober, but I started taking Suboxone for opiates, and I stopped taking the Xanax at that time, and so I felt like I was sober. Now I know that Suboxone, it still keeps you addicted to something. It still gives you similar effects to what opiates do, even though it's an opiate blocker. So I don't consider myself now as being sober at that time, but at the time I thought I was. It was given to me by a doctor. I stopped drinking, and I did that for close to 2 years, no alcohol, um, just the Suboxone, but my marriage was still in rough shape. Work was still fine, never a problem, really. If I wanted to turn it on, I could make money. I wasn't gonna get fired from there, but uh, especially when I sobered up, stopped drinking, I was doing really well at work. But my ex kept drinking that entire time, so I would open up the freezer and see vodka and all that. And when one of you is drinking and the other one's trying to stop, it's no fun. And when you're drinking with another person, you're more apt to like get engaged in silly conversations and arguments. When you're not, you're like, no, I'm good. I don't want to sit here and listen to this. I want to go to bed. And so it was a frustrating time, but I did the best that I could at that point. I didn't go to any meetings. I stopped going to anything that I was going to in the beginning because my work didn't need signatures or anything anymore. So we were good there. So I was white knuckling the drinking and um, using Suboxone to stay off of opiates. That started a long period of using that, man, and that stuff's man, that's harder to kick sometimes than opiates. It can stay in your system even longer. So, yeah, that continued for a while, and then all of a sudden, I got to home from a football practice. At this time, I was coaching my youngest son Bryce's football team, helping out a little bit of my older son's team, but his coach really didn't like dad's coaching. My daughter was playing soccer, so I was super busy, just kind of bouncing around to kid sports. But I came home one night, I thought I was having a heart attack. I was in the bathroom pacing, uh, and it turned out to be an anxiety attack. It was bad, I'd never experienced one before. And then after this anxiety attack, it wouldn't go away. I couldn't get it to go away. I felt like 24/7. I was outside of myself and I couldn't function normally. So, like, I tried to go into work once and I sat down at my desk. Somebody said one word to me and I jumped up. I'm like, nope, I gotta go. I couldn't carry on conversations with people. And this carried on for like, it felt like forever. Because when you have really bad panic attacks or anxiety, an hour feels like, a day. Everything moves really slow. Food tastes like cardboard. Loud noises are louder. You feel like you're talking too loud. I would whisper. I had my hood over my head and I'd lay underneath the covers and not even want to watch anything that was on TV or whatever. And, I'm not going to work and I couldn't function. And the only thing that ended up helping was benzodiazepines. Tried to go to the doctor and they gave me a really small amount. And then I found somebody to buy them from that I worked with that worked for me. What a shocker. We're seeing a trend there too. So I'm buying them in mass quantity from them. I'm taking way too many, but it's the only thing that's keeping me with the ability to function. So I'm not drinking now. I'm taking Suboxone. I'm popping pills. So I still, in my mind, think I'm sober. But I'm not taking them as prescribed because, one, they're not prescribed. And even if they were, nobody would take that many. And it just got worse and worse. And if I didn't take those pills, I would have panic attacks. And I finally got that under control for a little while, got those off the table and put those to the side. But they caused a lot of problems in my marriage because when you take those, you're different. Kind of shuts down your frontal lobe and you're just not all there. So I I stopped really taking those. I wasn't drinking. Everything was going pretty good all the way up until 2016. And at the end of 2016, I had bought a brand new car about a year earlier because, again, things were going great at work. And I went to go take Bryce to a flag football game. It was like a semifinal / championship game if they won. I was just at the YMCA, but still, um, me and my ex got into a huge fight. And then we leave, and as he always did, Bryce forgot his water. And so I said, I'll drop you guys off. I'll go get him a water. And I was going to grab like a energy drink or whatever. And on my way back, I was driving um, probably 45 and a 40 and just one lane road each way. It actually goes in front, eventually connects with where the high school's at. And the guy was parked at a stop sign and I was coming from his right side. He looked left, but didn't look right. Pulled out in front of me. And I saw that he had a kid in the front seat and it ran my car off into a ditch. That ditch ended in a tree. And so my 1 year and 1 day old car was completely totaled, squashed, I mean, smashed. And the other car had like a tiny scratch on it. He ended up getting cited for careless driving. My car was totaled and I got knocked out cold, crazy concussion. Um, the airbags all deployed. And ironically, what ended up messing me up the most was I saw the tree coming. So I blocked my face like this, which I know you're not supposed to do, but you see a tree coming and you can't get your car to, get under control. You're like, all right, I'm just going to block this. But because I did that, the airbag came out and then I double fist punched myself in the face, gave myself a couple black eyes and knocked myself out. I think that's where the concussion came from. So it was a bad accident. Multiple disc problems in my back, herniated disc, bulging discs, all that. 2 in my neck, 1 in the middle of my back, 2 in my lower back. A really bad concussion that I had to go see whoever the brain doctors are. And it just started this whole thing of dealing with insurance and doctors and all these types of things. But my concussion was so bad that when I tried to go back to work, at this point, I was back to working from home for the same company, Wyndham, doing sales, doing really well, probably having the best month I had had ever at that point. I was about the halfway point in December of 16. And I went and tried to work and they called me and said, we heard your calls, man. Are you okay? Are you drunk or something? I guess I was slurring my speech and I had to go out on leave. And actually for a reason that I didn't make up this time. And so I went on leave. The leave for a salesperson is not that great. You get paid hardly anything after taxes and benefits and all that. I think you get like, I don't know, a couple toothpicks and maybe a cigarette and a quarter or something like that from your check. So, I had a little bit of money in the bank. I had a pretty good month going at work. So even though I didn't sell anything for the rest of the month, I still got paid a pretty decent amount. But that goes pretty quick when you have 3 kids and bills. And so I couldn't go back to work at first, but then I got sent to a doctor that was a Dr. Feelgood. And even though I told him I had problems with addiction, he put me on so many pills after this accident that even if I could go back to work, I couldn't at that point because I was gone. I was high as a kite. First, he put me on extended release Vicodin, which I didn't even know was a thing, with some Percocet just in case that didn't do it. Then it was benzodiazepines because I was doing MRIs and oh man, so many tests. And so he gave me those. And then I went in and told him I was so tired. So he said I had ADHD. So now I'm on Adderall. I was on an insane dosage of opiates, an insane dosage of benzodiazepines, all different kinds. If one ran out too early, I'd go in and tell him that it didn't work and he'd prescribe another. And then he would put a bunch of refills on it. So like I had so many refills at so many different pharmacies for so many different pills. And that was in Florida at a time where that was fine as long as I didn't give them my insurance. Sometimes I would make stops at like 6 or 7 pharmacies, uh, and it was bad. And so I went from not drinking, getting off the Valium that I was taking, and just on Suboxone, to being addicted to opiates, like just as bad as I was before, if not worse. Now the addiction to benzodiazepines is off the charts. Klonopin, I had Klonopin, Xanax, Ativan. I had all of it. I had extended release Adderall, instant release Adderall, just in case you want to take one and then snort one. I had it all covered. And I didn't drink in the beginning of it, but your decision making isn't that great when you're on that many pills. So I started drinking again, which is great. I should be dead. Um, I would drink and take so many benzos and so many opiates, and those all suppress your breathing that I would wake up, like catching my breath um, in the middle of the night. And I took so much. I don't think I don't even think I know how many I took. One time my ex um, took pictures of how many pills I had. They were all different colors, man. There was Klonopin in there was Vicodin in there, I'm sure. There was Ativan, there was Xanax, there was everything. And I think there was like 290 pills. And like 3 days later, there was 200. 200. That means that I took 30 pills a day and I drank and I should be dead. And I probably drove. Like, I don't even know. That from the time I got into the accident at the end of 16 to like literally my entire world falling apart, it only took 7 months. Accident happened December, and by July, everything was on fire. And man, it was so bad. He just kept giving me more pills. He kept upping doses. I had things coming from mail-in pharmacies. Man, it was crazy. Literally Dr. Feelgood. And I had work insurance and insurance for the car accident. So I don't know if they were double billing. I was so out of it, I wouldn't even have noticed. But he ended up getting named in a lawsuit later, the whole Purdue thing. And I don't even think the doctor's office is in business anymore. And the stuff that he prescribed me ended up putting me or getting information about that lawsuit. It was called Hysingla, extended release Vicodin. He gave me 120 milligrams twice a day. So that's 240 milligrams of Vicodin a day. That's like taking 24 10 milligram Vicodins. I should be dead. And that was just the Vicodin. So it got bad. It got bad. I wasn't working. I'd try to go back to work. I tried to go back to work in the office and do sales there. And, I would show up for a day or two and then not show up. And, I had that FMLA still for an actual injury. Um, and I tried to work at a sales office. They're a big resort inside Disney, and that was a disaster because I would show up like scurrying in late, and I was so out of it. I was losing weight because I wasn't eating. I was taking so much Adderall and then benzos. I mean, I had this combo of opiates and benzos that would make me so checked out that most people would probably like sleep or die. And the Adderall would keep me wide awake. So now I have no conscience. I've got my frontal lobe is just turned off, and I'm wide awake for it. And that's that's not good. That is not good at all. So I just started doing some really dumb stuff. I got concerned about money. I started stealing stuff. More to come on that later. And it was just bad. It was so bad. And to think that that happened in 7 months. In December of 16, we were about to buy the house we were living in. I was making great money, great house, over 3,000 square feet in Windermere, Florida. I had a pool in the backyard. We were on an acre with a lake behind us. Kids were in great schools, sports, keep it going from there. Things still weren't great for me. I'm still taking Suboxone. I still had the ups and downs with the Valium, but at the end of the day, things were a lot better than they ended up after that car accident. And then, yeah, that happened. And 7 months later, July, my kids went up to Seattle. My ex-wife went up to Seattle, and I'm in Florida. And I wake up one day and realize that my family's gone, and I'm strung out on pills. And if I don't get out of there, I'm probably going to die. And I knew if I stayed, that doctor would keep giving me prescription pills. So what am I supposed to do? Keep taking them and just write it out there. My whole family's up in Seattle. Nope, I cut out. I cut out in July, right at the end of July. I think it was actually middle of July. I think July 17th. I leave. I sell whatever I can. She's up in Seattle. My kids are up in Seattle. They're going to start school up there. So I wanted to get up there. I really did. I wanted to get a job, but I had to get off these pills. I had to stop drinking again, and I had to kind of put myself back together. And I decided to go out to Arizona to my parents in Payson, which is about an hour and a half north of Phoenix. And again, she's up there. I sell everything I can, as much furniture in the place that I can. I mean, I piled whatever I could in the car. What I thought was important, which mostly to me was stuff for the kids and stuff that they'd drawn and stuff like that. I wanted to try and keep that kind of stuff. I could care less about furnitures and pictures and TVs when, um, you know, I cared more about that stuff. But anyways, I tried to pack the car with whatever I could. I sold whatever I could. And now I'm out and I'm headed to Arizona. And I told everybody I was going to get help. And deep down on the inside, I planned on doing that. But that's not what I did. I drove all the way to north of Phoenix in just a couple days. Um, so strung out on pills. I still had a few left. I still had some Adderall left. I still had some of the benzos left, some pain meds or Suboxone, one of them. But it got to a point where I ran out of everything. And so I had withdrawals from opiates. I had the withdrawals from alcohol were never really that bad for me because I never really drank that much. But the withdrawals from benzodiazepines were horrible. The panic attacks I was having before I took them were now intensified by 100. And I would sit in my parents' living room and I would whisper something, and my dad would be like, "What?" And I'd be like, "Oh, never mind." Um, and then I would say it again, and he'd be like, "What?" And I'm like, "You can't hear me?" And I would say it so loud. He's like, "What?" Like I would talk that quiet. If a loud noise happened, which wouldn't be a loud noise to really most people, but any sort of a noise, I would jump. I couldn't sleep. I'd stay up all night, stare at their ceiling. I would listen to pastors and worship music, just begging God to make it stop. Um, I didn't really know what else to do because there I am coming off all this stuff. I'd curl up in a ball some nights crying because it wouldn't stop. I'd beg God for 5 seconds of relief, 5 minutes of relief. And one time I thought I felt better, and then it came back, and I just started bawling because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't eat. I got down to like 145 pounds, shorts that normally fit and would stay up normally, same size I've worn forever, like 34. They dropped right to the ground when I took my belt off. Like that's how much weight I lost. I was so skinny. Um, I found out that the two kind of withdrawals you can die from are benzodiazepines and alcohol. And so I'm coming off benzos, and I could have died. And I was supposed to, I guess, get detox, but at that time I didn't even really know too much about that. Now I know a lot about it, but uh, I would lay in bed and I would pray to God and I would beg Him to make it stop, and it wouldn't go away. I spent probably close to a month total at my parents', give or take. And at the end of all of it, after being off those pills for, several weeks or whatever, running out, I tried to wean myself off, but that didn't go too well. I, um, I still, a month later, panic attacks, constant state of anxiety. I couldn't function. Somehow, though, a buddy of mine up in Seattle connected me with the owner of a for a business development position, in IT staffing and like consulting. Um, Talked to him over the phone, went up to Seattle, left my parents, and got the job. And I have no idea how I got it, because I'm sure I looked like a tweaker in the interview. I was probably jumping if anybody set anything down on the ground, or if a pin dropped, I probably, ducked for cover. But somehow I made it through that. And honestly, I shouldn't have taken that job. I shouldn't have put my friend in that situation, because I was not in any shape whatsoever to work. But I needed the money. I wanted the money. I was trying to, now I'm up in Seattle, and my ex and kids are living with their grandparents, and I wanted to get a place, and I wanted to get things back together. And I thought that I'd shake this whole anxiety thing. I can't. If you've been through it before, you understand. But if you haven't, it's hard to explain. It literally feels like you're living outside your own body. And again, loud noises, um, whisper. A day feels like a year. That might be an over exaggeration, but not really. It's an existence that's horrible, and I feel for anybody who's struggling with that right now. I pray for anybody who's struggling with it right now, that God frees you from that. Now I have complete freedom from anxiety and depression. We'll get to that a little bit later. I'm noticing now, with how long this has been going, we're probably going to break in about 15 minutes at whatever point we're at. And then there is going to be an episode 3. That's awesome. So episode 1 is the first part of my story, and what God put in my heart about this podcast. And episode 2 will kind of be the middle of it. And then episode 3 will be the radical encounter with Christ that I had, that has changed my life forever. Man, God is so good. And then we'll get into things that that God's revealed to me, that I've learned um, throughout this entire process, because the last 6 years have been an up and down roller coaster. But through that, God has revealed His character to me, and I've been in rough spots and all that. And I'll get to this in just a little bit, but man, God has been so faithful, and I've learned so much, and I wouldn't trade anything that's happened for anything, because it's got me in the position where I'm at right now, where I fear God and I want to obey His commands. And that's why I'm doing this. It's the only reason why I would want to get on here and tell you all this stuff, because uh, it used to be embarrassing, but now it's who I used to be. And praise God that He freed me. And so, uh, again, hope it helps. But so there I am. 4 years in Florida ended in an epic disaster, with so many prescription pills because of a car accident. I was stealing things and all that. And now I ended up by way of Arizona, and trying to, clean up a little bit up in Seattle. And I've got a job. I've got a good job. But I couldn't function anymore. I couldn't work. I would go into work. My job is to pick up the phone and call people and schedule appointments and get clients, and, get them to give us jobs that we can staff. And I couldn't pick up a phone. I couldn't make a call to anybody. And I would just stare at my phone, and I'd send LinkedIn messages and hope that somebody would respond and tell me that they'd want to set a meeting, which is Not normally how I would ever do it. I might send that after I call them, but I've never had a problem in my life picking up a phone and making a call. Cold calls, I don't care. But this was a time where I did not want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to talk at all. I just wanted to hide. So I would get up in the morning. Now I'm living at my brother Daniel's. He let me stay there when I got up there because the kids and my ex were living at her parents, trying to get things back together, get a place to live, get a job. All right, here we go. But I can't pick up the phone, and that's my job. And I'd stare at my phone, leave early. You can do it for a little while, but they're like, "What's going on?" And "Oh, I'm good. I'm just working on things. I'm figuring the job out. I've never done this kind of work before, and I'm not picking up a phone. So obviously, it's not going to work." But it got to the point where I wasn't shaking the anxiety. I couldn't get it to stop, and it it was frustrating. And so I found out my ex had some Adderall, and I asked her for some, and I started taking that. And I started in really small amounts because I just wanted enough to work. And I know now that that's never going to stop right there, where you just take a little bit to get yourself back on track. It gets progressive, it gets worse, and that just opened the door again. I While I was up there, really wasn't drinking or using drugs. I'd say I was sober for a couple months, kinda. I might take a 5 milligram gummy marijuana to try and sleep, but that didn't help. That usually made the anxiety worse. And um, so here I am taking Adderall, and it got worse and worse and worse. And I started taking more and more and more. But in that meantime, I got a call from a company off LinkedIn, and they offered me an even better job. But now I can function. Now I can work. Now I can pick up a phone. So I go and interview, and I take the job, paid better, and all that. Better chance of getting a place to live, especially up in Seattle. At that time, man, it was super expensive. So yeah, now I have an even better job, and I am now getting a prescription of my own for Adderall. And so we're kind of sharing to increase the amounts that we have. I start drinking again, shocker, and I start taking opiates again because that's the combo that I liked, the most was opiates, alcohol just to make them stronger, and uppers to keep me awake so I can enjoy the disaster that my life becomes for longer and longer each day. So, yeah. And Adderall is just legal meth. It is. We can lie to ourselves all we want, but it's amphetamine. When I got it and it was a generic, it's amphetamine. So, if you take it as prescribed, okay, fine. I'm not like that though. I was taking, a whole bunch again, getting instant release and whatever and snorting it and all that jazz. But drinking comes back into it. Now it's off the rails. And still living with my brother Daniel. I leave this new job that I have now, which is in Bellevue, and it's like December of 2017. And I am heading out to pick up my daughter because she wants to go Christmas shopping. And I'm on I-90 East, which normally never has traffic, even at 5 o'clock, 5:30, like maybe a little bit, but where I was at, it has to be an accident. It's dead stop. I see that I'm about an eighth of a mile from an exit where then I can take the back way and pick her up. And I go in the shoulder and I get lit up. Cops are behind me. I get pulled over, which I think is no big deal, uh, except I'm probably a little strung out on Adderall, but I'm not drunk or anything. So I'm thinking it's no big deal. They're just gonna check my stuff and all is well. Well, I mean, this check takes forever. The cops comes and asks me a few questions, and now he's back at his car. Now another state trooper shows up, and that's always a good sign. And I was kidding. There's spotlights on me, and I'm like, man, what the heck? And they come up with guns drawn, get me out of the car, put me on the ground, and they tell me that I'm under arrest because I'm wanted for felony out of another state, out of the state of Florida. I guess, I know, I don't guess. I stole something from a store, ripped it out of a box. It was headphones. It was Beats headphones. And I shoved it down my pants and I walked out. This was right before I left because I needed a little bit of cash. And so I did this, and I'm not proud of it. This is kind of funny that this is what got me in so much trouble. And I left and went straight to a pawn shop and I sold it. And I got like $100, maybe 120. I walked into the store to steal it in the same outfit that I walked into the pawn shop to sell it. My car was parked in the front spot in front of the store. So not only did they get me leaving, but they got the license plate of my car. I go to the pawn shop, give them my fingerprint, my ID, and dead to rights, man. Done. Dunzos. And in the South, in Florida especially, they frown upon theft. In Seattle, if you say that you were high and you stole something, you go to drug court, and you really don't get in that much trouble. In Florida, oh no, it's really bad. Petty theft, still no big deal, but knowing that something's stolen and taking it somewhere else, which I did because it was all on camera, is trafficking stolen goods, worse than grand theft auto in Florida. And then false verification of ownership to a pawnbroker is a level 3 felony. The other one is a level 2. So now I'm facing 2 felony charges. I get pulled over. They take me into jail in Seattle. And I don't know what's up, man. This is crazy. Am I going to get extradited? Are they going to do it that day? I have no clue. Everybody in jail will tell you exactly what's going to happen because they know. But they all told me I was going to ride like a paddy wagon from Seattle to Florida, stopping at every jail, which could have happened, but thank God it didn't. And yeah, you got a lot of experts in jail and county. You got a lot of lawyers, and just they got it all figured out. That's why they're there, and that's why I was there too, because I had it all figured out. Go to jail, bail's $8,500, same as it was in Florida. So I need to get bailed out because really, if I don't, I would just wait on extradition if they were going to extradite me, or there's a certain statute of limitations for how long they can keep you. Anyways, I'm in jail for a few days. A buddy of mine bails me out, and I get out, and I'm going to try to get that figured out. But I really was able to pick up where I left off at my job because my ex called them and said I had a back problem, or she emailed them like she was me. I don't remember. And I didn't lose my job, which was good. I thought I was going to be fired by the time I got out, but I didn't lose my job. And I just picked up right where I left off, man. And I had money saved up, and I probably should have taken that money and gone to Florida and bailed myself out when I got there and taken care of it. But I didn't. I used all the money that we had saved up and got a place to live because I wanted to live with my kids, man. I wanted to live with my kids, and they weren't living with me, and I missed them. And the only way to do that was to get a place and move in with my ex-wife. At the time, she was my wife. I knew we were done. I knew she was over it. I knew I was over it. But, you know, we kind of acted like we were going to try to work things out. And it was horrible, man. Once we got that place to live, uh, the fighting that was already horrible was a bazillion times worse. And, when you're both taking pills and drinking it, again, it's toxic. It's horrible. But with my issue in Florida, you go to court for once a month to check in and see if you're going to get extradited, which is an exciting thing to do. Like, am I going to find out that they're extraditing me and I'm going to run? Or no, I'm just kidding. Oh no, I thought about it. But you show up and you hope you're not getting extradited, and if you're not, you go home. And at the end of 4 months, if they don't get an extradition, they just drop it, but you still have a warrant out for your arrest. So that's what happened. And I, man, I'm now wanted in another state for felony theft. So I'm wanted for trafficking stolen goods in Florida. And now, because of what happened in Washington, I'm a fugitive of justice. So I, I wasn't going to get a job. I wasn't going to have anything happen at that point. And between the time I originally got arrested to the time that this thing kind of played out in 4 months, I'd like gotten so high that I lost my job. So I lost the job that I had gotten right before I got arrested. In the period of time of going to court and all that stuff, I kind of like gave up and thought like all was going to be lost and I was going to end up in jail for all this time when really that wasn't the case. And so I just didn't really care about my job anymore. When you use a company credit card for personal charges, that's pretty bad too. So yeah, they frown upon that. And so now I'm jobless with a warrant out for my arrest. The reason why I didn't show when I got the job before is because when you have a warrant and you haven't been caught yet, it doesn't show up on background checks. So if that's you, you're good right now. But once you get caught, yeah, you're a fugitive of justice in the state that catches you, wanted for whatever you're wanted in the other state. So basically, the only job options at that time were kitchen work and construction. Um, I wasn't going to get any sort of a job where I passed a background check. I left the job that I originally got in Seattle from a friend on horrible terms because I got a new job and I just kind of disappeared on him. So that wasn't an option. So I really was getting to the point where I was at the end of my rope. The fighting with my ex got worse. We're getting towards the middle of 2018, and it finally all came to a head. And I'm going to end with this story, and then we'll have an episode 3. So again, once I get through my story and all that goes into it, because there's a few things. Then I got a friend coming in on Thursday, my friend Adam. Looking forward to interviewing him. His story's so cool, man. And yeah, he's gonna come in and we're gonna hang out over there. We got cool setup with chairs, and I'm gonna talk to him about his story. First time he told me his story gave me goosebumps. And that's why when I thought about doing this, I was like, man, I really want to have you on. And he's like, yeah, I'd love to. So you're going to be blessed by his story. So there I am. Marriage is done. We're at the end. We're done. Strung out on Adderall and opiates again and alcohol. Don't have a job. Have a warrant out for my arrest, and I'm a fugitive of justice in the state of Washington. Look, Ma, we made it. And now me and my wife are done. I leave the house. She kicks me out, whatever you want to call it. A little bit of both. And I'm driving around doing nothing, like driving and parking the car. And I'm in a rental car now too, at this point, because something happened with the car that we bought. And now I'm in a rental and I don't have any money to keep paying them. So I'm parking in parking lots and sleeping in the car and drinking and snorting Adderall, whatever I had left. And I run out of that. I'm getting depressed. I'm starting to get anxious again. I know that my marriage is over at this point, but I don't even know what I'm going to do, man. Am I going to go back to Arizona? Am I going to call my brother? And I knew what that meant. I knew calling my younger brother Daniel meant I was going to have to, talk to him about getting help. He was the intake coordinator at the Salvation Army because he struggled with similar things that I struggled with, and he's going to be on the show too. So I'm looking forward to hearing his story. But he had been clean for a while. He worked for them, and they were calling me because the rental car company was calling them because I'm not returning their calls and I haven't paid them. And basically now I've stolen the rental car. And I don't want to give it up because once you lose your car, man, you got nothing left. I'm running out of money quick. I got to the point where I just knew I knew I had to do something. What am I going to do? I need help. And I called my brother, and that's what he did. He helped me. He told me I could come to his house. Well, first he had to check to see if I could go to that Salvation Army. And he worked there, so they had to make sure that was all right. Then he told me that was good. And he said I could come stay at his house. I went and returned the rental car. Came to stay at his house. Got to see my awesome niece, Soraya, and hang out with her after I slept off a little bit of what happened. And he said, after 3 days, you're going, I got you an intake date, for Wednesday. And at the time I was like, all right, man, I need a place to stay. And I didn't know what to do. I had no car. I had, nothing at this point. So I either had to figure out something really fast or I had to go. And all ended on this. I ended up going into the Salvation Army, which I already talked about in the last episode. And I'll kick off the next episode with this, but I already told you I did not like it in the beginning. But then I started to find hope. And then I started to find the fact that change was possible. Now the story keeps going, and there's some downs and more downs, few ups, but this is the beginning of me starting to walk towards, recovery, starting to really walk towards a relationship with Christ. I didn't quite figure it all the way out at this point, but this was the beginning of it. And I'm so thankful that, it was kind of the beginning of my recovery journey. I'm thankful that my brother was there to help me out when I was in a really rough spot. I mean, warrants and wanted, fugitive of justice, um, separating from your wife and family, and just I thought it was my bottom. We'll find out a little bit later that it was the top of my of where it really ended up getting really bad. Let's just say the bottom had a basement, and then the basement had a cellar, and I just kept digging. But this was the beginning of me realizing that change was possible, and I got to meet some great people. Um, a lot of them, like I mentioned, are going to come on. So, yeah, I'm gonna stop right there. But I told you before, I want to end every episode with an opportunity for anybody who's listening to make Jesus the Lord and Savior of their life. I talked on the last episode about how all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and Jesus, being 100% God, 100% man, came down, left his throne in heaven, came down to earth, humbled himself as an infant, was born of a virgin, and um, lived a perfect life and died on the cross, just absolutely brutal death. Was obedient to death because he saw you when he was on that cross. When he was on Calvary, he saw you. And no matter what you've done, no matter what you've think that is unforgivable, Jesus is right there, and he's ready to forgive you. He really already has. His forgiveness as far as the east is from the west. When you think about that, when you go north, you always have to go south eventually. But when you go east or west, you're constantly going east or constantly going west. It just keeps going around. So that's what they meant by that. He's going to forgive you and forget. Um, Not just forgive, but forget. He forgets for his own sake. That's what it says in the book of Isaiah. So he lived a perfect life. He died on the cross. And then the most miraculous thing happened. He rose again 3 days later. And that is the gospel, that Jesus is alive, that he paid the price for our sin that keeps us away from being able to be in the presence of a holy God because of what Jesus did, doing what we couldn't do, paying a price that we couldn't pay. He redeemed us. He ransomed us. Um, he rescued us from our sin and wants to provide an environment for your faithfulness to him to flourish. And he wants to restore you. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation. The old is gone, the new is here. He wants to restore your identity. And he paid the price that you couldn't pay. And he rose again, defeated death in the grave. And because of that, when you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, like it says in Romans 10:9, you will be saved. And when you do that and ask God for forgiveness and truly repent and turn and go the other way, because that's what repent means. It means to turn and go the other way, change your mind, change your heart. When you really repent and say, God, I'm so sorry, and really just forsake your sin, um, it says that you'll be saved. And when we tell God that we need him and we humble ourselves, James 4:6 says that God opposes the proud. He resists the proud, right? And gives grace to the humble. So when we're prideful and we say, I got this, I can do this on my own, which I did so many times. When we do that, we are in opposition to God. The Bible also says we're at enmity with God, which means we're enemies of God. I don't want to be an enemy of God. So when we admit that we're in need of saving and we realize that Jesus is the answer to that, we humble ourselves, and it says that God gives grace to the humble. And when we confess and forsake our sins, like Proverbs 28:13 says, confess and forsake, that's when we find mercy. So I want you to accept God's grace and accept his mercy, because I need it every second of every single day, and your life will never be the same. And I pray that you find, if you made that decision today, I pray that you find people to surround yourself with that can disciple you. You find a community of believers and an awesome Bible preaching and teaching church where you can learn the word, because being in communion with God is where it's at, in his word, prayer, every single day. You will go from being disciplined to desiring a relationship with Jesus and a relationship with God and wanting to be in communion with him every day. So if you made that decision today, email me. I would love to know. If you need help getting connected or whatever, I'm here. Redeemed and Restored Podcast at gmail.com. I would love to celebrate with you. If you need help, if you're struggling with addiction, Redeemed and Restored Podcast at gmail.com. I've got a pretty versed knowledge of different opportunities and options that are available to you. And I would love to get you connected with one of them. If you're local here, I've got connections at several different programs, but I know people all over that we can get you connected with. And let's get you on that right path. So yeah, thank you for coming and hanging out with me again today. Thank you for listening to the second part of my story. I'm excited to jump in at this point on episode 3. I will see you guys then. Thanks so much. God bless you.